Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of Arrow, and Arrow is back. Oliver Queen has returned to Starling City, and just in the nick of time. So, a lot happened in this episode, and I was kind of like, I did enjoy it, and interesting to see where we're going to go moving forwards because now Oliver has teamed up with Malcolm Merlin, the magician. We got a good little backstory as to how Malcolm turned into the man that he has become, and that was because we found out that Brick is the man who murdered his wife 21 years ago. And this set into motion who Malcolm Merlin is today. And he left his son with vengeance in him, and he wanted to train and become part of this League of Assassins so that he would be able to take down the man who ultimately killed his wife. And when it's revealed that the man that he did kill was never the right person, he kind of loses it. And he tells Thea that he's going to kill this man, and he's finally found out who he is, and everything that he's done so far has been for nothing because he didn't get the right person. So he's out for blood, and he turns to the Arrow Scooby Gang and asks them if they'll team up with him to help take down Brick. And they're all like, I don't think so, because let's face it, Malcolm Merlin is not a nice guy. Even though he did what he did, he claims he tried to do it to save the city, but he did still kill a whole lot of people. So it was interesting to see the team weighing their options, whether they should go with the devil or steer clear of him. And Felicity, has this big old speech that Oliver would never team up with Malcolm Merlin no matter what. And I can't believe that we're even contemplating working with this psychotic man. And then when Oliver returns, it's exactly what he does, is team up with Malcolm Merlin. And I'll get to that little speech that Felicity gave Oliver at the end a little later. But we watched Oliver throughout this episode trying to get back to his city. He's been off in the woods with Tatsu, and he's trying desperately to get back home. And one thing that kept going through my mind is, why doesn't he just at least call them? But, like he said, they didn't really have self-service where they were. But, this is the second time when he could have gotten a hold of his family and let them know he was okay, but he didn't. Once when he was on the island, and then now here. I guess, it's easier said than done, but there's a part of me that's like, yeah, dude, just figure out a way to get a hold of them and tell them that you're all good. But anyway, so yes, he has returned back home. So one of the things that happened in this episode and it was going on in last week's episode too, and it was driving me crazy, and that is, why is Diggle out in the lair with Felicity communicating to Roy and the newly trained assassin Laurel, aka Black Canary, and he's not in the field? It's like, has he not been, Oliver's right hand man through all of this even before Roy? So I'm confused as to why Diggle's giving direction instead of being the one doing the pummeling of these baddies. So I get that Laurel is turned into this new awesome fighting girl, which I love, but I'm confused as to why Diggle is not part of the action and he's on an intercom explaining what to do. It's just driving me nuts. So that happened a lot in this episode, and I was really disappointed in that. But at the end of the day, they got the bad guy. They were able to get Brick, and Malcolm Merlin was having his face to face with him when he finally had him cornered in an alleyway, and he was too much talking in my book. He was telling him all the things that he did to his wife, and Brick didn't even remember him until finally he did. And then he's like, oh, I remember, I killed her because she was useless and she wasn't tough enough and all this kind of stuff. And then in comes Oliver, and he's trying to tell Malcolm, like, you can change who you want to be now. You don't have to be the murderous man. And even Malcolm's like, I killed 503 people. Yikes. So he's like, well, you can change all that now for Thea, and you can become a better man. I mean, I don't know if you really can, but hey, there's always a start, right? So yes, Oliver has now returned, and clearly he's in a much weaker state. He still hasn't healed. I don't know how he's even walking around when that lovely blade of Ra's al Ghul literally went straight through his chest. But hey, he's a superhero. There's no arguing with that. So, of course, we also got the return of Sin, who I really enjoy. And I'm hoping that they're going to put Roy and her together because I really like the chemistry between the two of them. And she sees Black Canary for the first time and she is like, who is that? And she's questioning the authenticity of Laurel, aka Black Canary, and she even mentions this to Quentin. And of course, now Quentin's like scratching his head, like, wait a second, I talked to my daughter, it's Sarah. And she's like, no, that is an imposter. And so now he is gonna obviously pay more attention to the next time he has a conversation with Sarah, aka Laurel. And it's like I said before, it's just sad that everybody knows that Sarah is dead except for him. And when he does find this out, it's not going to be good news. Same goes for when Thea finds out that Oliver is actually the Arrow and that he's been lying to her this entire time. So if I were her, I'd start putting two and two together when she looks on the newscast and she sees that the Arrow has returned. And then, a couple hours later, in walks her brother through the front door. So I don't know when she's going to get that big reveal, but when it comes, oh boy, there's going to be a whole lot of whining from Thea. But all in all, it was a good episode, but there were some just small things that were driving me nuts. And now I wouldn't say it's small. I think the Diggle being sidelined is a huge problem for me. I really want to see him more in the fold. And, the fact that he even dressed up as Arrow in the first episode back from the mid-season finale says to me that he could keep doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. So I don't know why they've put him in on the back burner. It's just driving me nuts. So we got a few flashbacks to Malcolm Merlin, like I said, 21 years ago, when you saw him like as a much weaker man and he got beat up and then he ultimately killed the guy who he thought killed his wife, and it led him on the path to where he is now. And he has a lot of regret with how he treated his son Tommy. And we all know that Tommy and him did not have a good relationship because he pretty much abandoned him and went off to work with the League of Assassins. So it'll be interesting to see now that Oliver has gone to him and wants him to be his new trainer so that he can then ultimately fight and kill Ra's al Ghul when they go head to head in their next duel, because we all know it's going to come. So that's going to be pretty cool to see. Yeah, it's nice to see that everybody is on the same page. But once again, when Oliver returns and he comes back down to the lair and he reveals to his group that he's going to be working with Malcolm Merlin so that he can be ready to fight Ra's al Ghul, Felicity's reaction, not so good. Her reaction to seeing him, of course, is a big grin and a hug. And, they have a moment. And then when she finds out that he's going to start working with Malcolm Merlin, she gets very upset and she storms out. And she pretty much tells him, look, you claim to love your sister and you loved Sarah, but yet you're going to go and work with the man who got your sister to murder the woman you love. And then she says, I don't want to be the person that you love. So basically she's over it. Like, in her mind, she cannot fathom that Oliver would want to work with the man who has done all of these horrible things to him and set him down this path to then almost be killed by Ra's al Ghul. So she's put her foot down. We'll see where that goes. Another thing I just want to point out in this episode, there were a lot of really good fight scenes. Roy and Laurel had some really great fight scenes. The scene when they had all of the city, like the people from the Glades fighting Brick's group of crazies, was pretty cool to see. Like that big, it looked kind of like war times when you've got all of your people on one side and then they just clash together and they just start fighting, going nuts. So that looked really good. Then of course we saw the man, I can't remember his name, sorry guys, the guy who's been training Laurel. He pretty much gets pummeled by Brick, and Laurel's like, over him, and she's like, you're gonna be okay, and he's like, you're not a really good liar, but I hope he doesn't die because I like him. And I'm hoping that him and Laurel will get some scenes together, because I actually like that pairing far more than I liked her with Oliver. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they move forwards with that. All right, guys, that is my review of Arrow. Let me know what you thought. It'll be interesting to see if we get a new side of Malcolm Merlin. He didn't kill Brick, and we'll see if this gives us a little softer side of Malcolm. And, he's been through some stuff, and we all know that, but it'll be interesting to see what goes forwards. And of course, Oliver standing on the car in front of all the people in the glades, pretty much telling everybody that he's been gone, but he's not going to disappoint and he's not going to go away again, was his way of saying, listen, Ra's al Ghul is not going to get the best of me, and I am going to take that man down. So we'll see what happens, guys. Can't wait. All right, that's it. I'll see you next week. Bye.